Right now, billions of people are reaching for something. A cup, a pill, a glass, a vape, a tiny paper-wrapped stick, and in less than 10 seconds, their brain chemistry is about to change. By the end of this video, you're going to understand the actual mechanism behind every craving you've ever had. And one of the most addictive substances on this entire list isn't hiding in some back alley. It's legal. It's advertised. And there's a good chance you used it this morning. Stick around, because we're going through 12 substances, from the one in your coffee cup to the ones doctors use in operating rooms. And by the time we get to the end, the line between medicine and drug is going to look a lot blurrier than you think. Caffeine. Let's start with the one nobody thinks twice about. Your brain has a built-in fatigue counter, a molecule called adenosine. Every minute you're awake, it accumulates, locking onto receptors that whisper one thing: sleep. Caffeine doesn't silence that whisper. It squats on the receptor instead. It physically occupies the spot adenosine needs without flipping the tired switch off. The signal is still being generated. It just never lands. That's the part most people get wrong. Caffeine doesn't create energy. It hides the bill. Underneath the alertness, dopamine gets a small boost too, which is exactly why that first sip feels like a reward, not just a fix. But your brain keeps score. Within days, it starts manufacturing more adenosine receptors to compensate for the ones caffeine is blocking. Now the same cup does less. That's tolerance. And it's the quiet reason your one coffee a day became 2, then 3. Skip it one morning, and the adenosine you've been hiding all week shows up all at once. That headache isn't random. That's withdrawal from a drug sold on every street corner on the planet. Nicotine. Nicotine plays an entirely different game. Inhale it, and it reaches your brain in under 10 seconds. Faster than almost anything else on this list. Faster than most injected drugs. It locks onto receptors built for an entirely different job. Receptors your brain uses for memory and attention, and hijacks them to trigger a flood of dopamine. Here's the part almost nobody tells you. Nicotine doesn't actually relax you. It can't. What it does is remove the irritability and anxiety that nicotine itself created in the hours since your last dose. You're not finding calm. You're returning to zero. It's one of the most elegant addiction loops in chemistry. Manufacture the problem, then sell the only solution. The delivery method barely matters. Cigarettes, vapes, pouches, patches. The receptor doesn't care how it arrives. And here's a number that surprises most people. By some addiction severity rankings, nicotine scores as habit-forming as heroin. It's just legal, cheap, and sold in every gas station in the country. Alcohol. Alcohol feels like a stimulant. The first sip, the laughter, the sudden looseness in your shoulders. That's the illusion talking. Underneath, alcohol is a depressant, one of the most powerful ones humans regularly consume. It supercharges GABA, your brain's main braking system, while simultaneously jamming glutamate, the gas pedal. Reflexes slow, judgment loosens, inhibitions drop. That floaty, warm feeling isn't relaxation. It's your central nervous system being pressed toward a stop. Dopamine gets released too, which explains why the second drink always sounds like a good idea after the first. Drink consistently for months or years, and your brain fights back by permanently cranking up glutamate production, trying to counteract the constant braking. Stop suddenly after your brain has adapted this way, and that accelerator is left wide open with no brake to balance it. Heart rate spikes, anxiety spikes. In severe cases, seizures follow. Alcohol is one of only a small handful of substances on Earth where quitting cold can be more dangerous than continuing to use. And it's sold in every grocery store, completely unregulated by prescription. Cannabis. Cannabis works by hijacking a messenger system your body already runs. THC, the main psychoactive compound, mimics endocannabinoids your own brain produces naturally, locking onto CB1 receptors scattered across your nervous system. Receptors that regulate pain, appetite, memory, and mood, often all at once. Smoke or vape it, and the effect arrives within minutes, peaks fast, and fades in a couple of hours. Eat it, and your liver converts THC into a more potent compound entirely, which is why edibles hit slower, sometimes an hour or more, but land harder and last longer. That delay is exactly why so many first-timers eat a second dose before the first one even kicks in, then regret it for the next 6 hours. The same compound in the same person can shift the experience from giggly and relaxed to anxious and paranoid depending on dose, mindset, and setting. Long-term heavy use, especially in developing brains, has been linked to measurable drops in working memory and motivation. And contrary to the "it's harmless" myth, roughly 1 in 10 regular users develops a genuine dependence. Cocaine. Cocaine does one specific thing better than almost any drug humans have ever discovered. It floods the brain with dopamine and refuses to let it leave. Normally, after dopamine does its job in the synapse, a transporter scoops it back up for reuse. Cocaine jams that transporter completely shut. Dopamine just accumulates, firing, with nowhere to go. Snort it, and the high builds over a few minutes and fades within 30. Smoke it as crack, and the same effect arrives in seconds, hits harder, and disappears even faster, which is exactly what makes it more addictive in that form. When the high ends, dopamine doesn't just return to normal, it crashes below baseline, leaving a void your brain interprets as an emergency. The solution is always close by. With repeated use, the dopamine system actually shrinks its own receptor count to compensate for the overstimulation, meaning the high keeps getting smaller while the craving keeps getting bigger. Each use resets the bar for what counts as normal pleasure, and that bar only ever climbs. MDMA does something almost no other recreational drug does. It floods 3 separate chemical systems simultaneously: serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, not in sequence, all at once. The serotonin surge in particular produces that signature feeling people describe as emotional connection, empathy, even a temporary dissolving of social walls people have carried for years. The high typically lasts 3 to 5 hours, often described as some of the clearest emotional clarity a person has ever felt. But your brain only manufactures a finite supply of serotonin, and MDMA spends almost all of it in one sitting. The next day, what users call Suicide Tuesday or the come down, mood crashes in near exact proportion to how high it climbed. Use it frequently enough, and the serotonin-producing nerve terminals themselves can sustain lasting damage, leaving the brain structurally less capable of producing the chemical responsible for baseline happiness. It's not especially addictive in the physical sense, but the memory of how connected you felt can pull people back harder than withdrawal ever could. LSD. A single dose of LSD is measured in micrograms, millionths of a gram, small enough to fit thousands of doses on the head of a pin, yet potent enough to completely rewrite a person's sense of reality. It binds to serotonin 5-HT2A receptors, and from there, opens communication between brain regions that normally operate in near total isolation from each other. Vision bleeds into sound. Thoughts loop into physical sensation. The boundary between self and everything else gets thin, sometimes disappearing entirely for stretches of time. The effect can last 8 to 12 hours, and once it starts, there's no early exit. You cannot simply decide you're done. That's why set and setting, the mental state and physical environment before taking it, matters so enormously. The exact same dose in the exact same person can produce a profoundly euphoric, even life-altering experience, or a genuinely terrifying one, depending entirely on context. Physically, it isn't addictive. There's no withdrawal. Ketamine. Ketamine is a legitimate hospital anesthetic that, in smaller recreational doses, produces something stranger than sedation: dissociation, the sensation of separating from your own body and observing it from somewhere outside. It blocks NMDA glutamate receptors, the exact receptors your brain depends on to stitch sensation, memory, and present moment awareness into one continuous experience. Interrupt that stitching, and you remain conscious, fully present, while feeling like you're floating somewhere just outside your own skin. Clinically, it's been used safely for decades, especially in emergency medicine and pediatric anesthesia. And a refined version, esketamine, is now treating depression that didn't respond to anything else with genuinely promising results. But chronic recreational abuse carries a consequence almost nobody warns people about: permanent, irreversible bladder damage, sometimes severe enough to require surgery. The dissociative state itself can also become its own kind of psychological hook. Some users chase the feeling of stepping outside their own life so often that it becomes a dependency in its own right, even without a classic physical withdrawal. Opioids. Opioids copy your body's own natural painkillers, endorphins, almost perfectly, then overwhelm the system completely. They flood mu-opioid receptors, shutting down pain signals before they ever register in the brain, while simultaneously triggering a wave of relief so intense it crosses into euphoria. For someone in severe chronic pain, that effect can be genuinely life-changing. But tolerance builds fast. Your brain starts pulling receptors out of active circulation to compensate, meaning the same dose stops working within weeks, sometimes days. Withdrawal isn't just uncomfortable, it's frequently described as the worst flu imaginable, stretched across days that feel like weeks. Body aches, vomiting, diarrhea, insomnia, crushing anxiety. And the danger doesn't stop there. An overdose paralyzes the brain's respiratory center directly. Breathing simply stops, quietly, often with no struggle visible to anyone in the room. Morphine, heroin, oxycodone, fentanyl, different potencies, wildly different street reputations, but the exact same mechanism underneath every single one: methamphetamine. Meth doesn't just release dopamine the way most stimulants do. It forces neurons to actively dump their entire dopamine reserve all at once, then blocks the recycling system on top of it. There's no natural human experience that produces anything close to this level of chemical flood. The ingredients are cheap and the chemistry is simple, which is exactly what makes it so dangerous and so widespread. Then comes the crash, and it's severe. The dopamine system is left completely depleted, with nothing left to generate even baseline contentment. Sometimes for weeks at a stretch, long-term use does something most recreational drugs don't. It can permanently damage the physical dopamine pathways themselves, structurally reducing a person's capacity to feel pleasure at all, even from things that used to bring joy. It's consistently ranked among the hardest addictions to treat, with a recovery process that's long, frequently interrupted by relapse, and can take years before the brain's reward system even partially recovers. Psilocybin. Psilocybin is the active compound inside what most people call magic mushrooms, used ceremonially by human cultures across multiple continents for thousands of years, before modern science ever isolated it. Once inside the body, it converts into psilocin, which binds the same 5-HT2A serotonin receptors as LSD, producing a related but distinct experience. One of its most studied effects is quieting the default mode network, the brain structure responsible for maintaining a continuous, organized sense of self. Turn that network down, and the boundary between you and your surroundings gets genuinely thin, an effect researchers call ego dissolution. Visuals can become intensely geometric, colors more saturated than anything in ordinary perception, senses blending into each other. It's frequently described as overwhelming, sometimes frightening, and just as often described as one of the most meaningful experiences of a person's life, occasionally both in the same session. Tolerance builds so aggressively that using it on consecutive days produces almost no effect, which makes physical dependence nearly impossible. And current clinical trials into treating depression and PTSD are producing results that, a decade ago, almost nobody would have predicted. Benzodiazepines, Valium, Xanax, Klonopin, Ativan. Benzodiazepines are some of the most commonly prescribed medications on the planet, sitting in millions of medicine cabinets completely legally, completely normalized, and capable of building dependence just as real as anything illegal on this list. They amplify GABA, your brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter, making existing GABA receptors respond far more intensely to the same signal. The result is calm, muscle relaxation, and often sleep fast. Used short-term, under supervision, they're genuinely effective and safe. The danger creeps in with time. Tolerance can appear within weeks, physical dependence within months, often without the patient or doctor noticing until tapering becomes difficult. Withdrawal isn't a minor inconvenience. It brings anxiety frequently worse than whatever the medication was originally treating, tremors, and in severe cases, seizures. Alongside alcohol, benzodiazepines belong to a very short list of substances where stopping abruptly can be more medically dangerous than continuing, a fact that rarely makes it onto the warning label most patients actually read. 12 substances, 12 completely different mechanisms acting on the exact same 3-pound organ every single time, your brain. Some of these are legal, sold without a second glance, woven so deeply into daily life that we stopped questioning them generations ago. Others are illegal, demonized, and judged by people who've never read a single page about how they actually work. But chemistry has never once checked a law book before doing its job. The receptor doesn't know if the substance binding to it is a multi-billion-dollar legal industry or a federal crime. It just responds. Understanding the mechanism behind a craving doesn't make that craving disappear, but it does take away its mystery, and mystery is exactly what keeps people repeating patterns they don't understand. Knowing how they work was never permission to use them. It's the opposite. Now you know enough to actually choose.